All right, camera team, welcome back to your final video on the cinematography course. We have one more question left to answer, but first, I just want to stop and say thank you again for being willing to invest in yourselves. Thank you for being willing to learn more and to deepen your skills. Again, we have one final video, so let's jump right in with the last question, which is, like I said at the end of the last video, when? And really what I mean by when is the best time to get these shots? We've already talked about how to set up shots, how to look for your subject, and really how to get, separate a good shot from a great shot. We've already talked about how to get the really high quality shots, but now we need to ask ourselves, when should we be getting those shots? Because at the end of the day, you may have amazing shots. You may have a really good shot that just doesn't match the energy or the emotion going on in the room at that given moment. And that is where this last question comes in to help save the day, to help you find the best times for those best shots. You may have a really good shot, but it may not match the moment, and that's okay. Put that shot in your back pocket because chances are there will be a time where it does match and you can pull that shot back out and get it for them. So when we ask ourselves the question of when, there's two things that you should keep in mind to help you answer this question to the best of your ability, and those are this. One, be aware of the room, and two, be aware of the Holy Spirit. Now, what do I say when I mean be aware of the room? Well, I mean a few different things, but on the most basic of levels, be aware of what's going on around you, right? Don't be so focused on what's happening on your camera screen that you're not aware of what's going on around you physically. Now, this applies to everyone. This doesn't mean just roamers on stage or someone back in the back of the room running a tripod. This is every camera operator. Be aware of what's going on first around you. If you are a roamer on stage, you're physically moving around and you don't want to run into somebody or you don't want to trip over something. Be aware of what's going on around you. But also, if you're running a tripod, be aware of where you are at. Be aware of what you're looking at on your camera. Be aware of what's going on, maybe not on your camera, right? Look at some of the other worship leaders, not just through your camera lens, but take your eyes off every now and then. Okay? Look around what's going on around you in the room. And if you're running camera one, don't step off of the camera platform. Be aware of where your feet are at. Same thing with camera 3. So just be aware of what's going on around you in the room. But not just around you in the room, but just around the room in general. There may be a worship moment going on with one of the worship leaders that would be a really great thing to catch, especially to give some context for people watching online. That would be a great shot to get, and if you're not looking up from your camera screen every now and then, you're not going to catch that, especially if you're not already shooting that. Or there may be something going on in the crowd and you're a roamer that you want to catch, or something going on with a drum solo or a guitar solo, or just something like that, a special highlighted element at any case during an experience that we want to be able to catch. To do that, we want to be aware of what's going on in the room. Now, this also applies in another capacity, which is to be aware of what's coming up next in the room. Our hope is that you guys have prepared in some capacity, whether that's you've watched the woodshed or you've looked through the planning center plan, or if it's already a Sunday experience, we've already run through it once or twice at this point, so you know what's coming up. You know when we're about to enter a bridge or when we're about to transition songs, and you know what worship leader is coming next. It's all about being prepared. We want to be prepared so that we can be best aware of what's going on in the room and catch what's going on in the room when it happens. But there is actually one more way that this applies, and it's talking about being aware of the energy and the emotion in the room. And this is kind of what I mean when I say getting good shots, but maybe shots that don't match the energy or the emotion. I touched on it a little bit in the last video about how tight shots can convey detail and emotion, whereas wide shots can do context and energy really well. Well, if we have a high energy song, that's something you want to consider when you're getting your shots. You want to be aware of the energy in the room. You want to be aware of the emotion in the room, and you want to get those shots that really match those energies and emotions, regardless of what camera that you're on. So that is what I mean when I say be aware of the room. First, look around you. Don't trip over anything if you're running around on stage. Don't step off a camera platform. But don't just be aware of what's going on around you. Be aware of what's going on in the room as a whole, and be aware of how the room is looking and feeling at any given moment so we can get the best shots that we need to get. But the second thing, and the most important thing, is be aware of the Holy Spirit's leading. What we are doing is just as much worship as the worship leaders on stage and as the band members on stage. What we are doing is designed to be worship. Cameras, cinematography, videography, it's all an art form, and any kind of art form can be just as much worship as another. And that is exactly what we are doing. We are worshiping God through our camera shots, through being artistic, through being creative, and through trying to convey images and ideas to an audience that isn't physically in the room with us. And so that is what we want to be doing. We want to be sure that we are worshiping with what we're doing. Don't get so caught up in getting the right shot that you forget there is a reason that you're doing this. It's not all about getting the shot. It's about doing what you do for the one who created you. And that is what this is all about. Sure, we want to get good shots, just like an artist painting a picture for the Lord would not want to make their picture look bad, but they're not worried about making mistakes because ultimately it's for the Lord, right? And that is the idea that we take into everything that we're doing. So again, be aware of the room, be aware of what's going on around you, be aware of the energy going on in the room, but most importantly, be aware of the Holy Spirit's leading you in the room, right? If the Holy Spirit's leading you to get a shot, get that shot, okay? That is what it is all about on this team. So that's the last question of when. When do you need to get those shots? Well, be aware of what's going on around you in the room and be aware of what the Holy Spirit is leading you to do. After that, you have got all 4 of your questions answered and you've got your shots ready to go. Now that you've answered all these questions, my hope is that you understand, at least to a deeper level, of cinematography and how that applies to our context. There are lots of other resources available online. I highly encourage you to go look up, and there are lots of things that can apply to very different or in very different ways to the different cameras. So it's hard to make a video that kind of explains everything, but my hope is that you guys will take plenty away from this series of videos and be able to apply it to the camera that you run, whatever that may look like. So again, thank you for taking the time to watch these videos, to pour into yourselves, to invest in your skills, to deepen your knowledge, and I can't wait to see you guys applying what you've learned here on a Sunday or a Wednesday or a Saturday or whenever you're there to run cameras. Again, thank you guys for being on this team, for being willing to invest in yourselves and other people on the team. We really love you, we really appreciate you, and we could not do what we do without your guys' hard work and dedication.